Welcome to the build of the Revision 5 all-in-one clock. In this step we're going to build the low voltage circuit, and that means the circuit which takes the input voltage coming in via the barrel jack, puts it through the voltage regulator and turns it into 5 volts so the controller can run on it, and at the end we're going to test that the voltage between the ground and the 5 volt points here gives us what we want. So the components we're going to use are a UF4007, which makes sure that the input voltage is the right way round, a decoupling capacitor 100 nanofarads, an input capacitor which is 220 microfarads at 35 volt. That's the one that goes in the big space here. Then we've got a smoothing capacitor for the low voltage side, which is 220 microfarads at 10 volt. We have a 7805. Which actually does the hard work of the regulation. We have a 3K resistor and an LED, which will tell you that the low voltage is on. We then have the input barrel jack, which goes in the CON1 space, and the SV1 header, which you can or you can't put on. It's up to you. So let's start the build. The first step is we're going to take the UF4007 and we're going to find the silver stripe on it, and we're going to put the lead with the silver stripe on it going down into the square hole. So put that in there, it stays still, and then we'll just give it a quick solder. And then we will trim up the leads. Make sure you get rid of all of the leads off the workbench. Otherwise you'll end up putting the board on it while it's on and destroying something. So be clear about getting rid of them at the end. Okay, then we're going to put in the C2, which goes in this space here. We're just going to bend the leads a little so it doesn't fall out. And C4 and C3. So both of them have a white stripe on there and a shorter lead. So we're going to put the white stripe and the shorter lead in the space which has the white half on it, the white semicircle. So white stripe. Okay. So for this guy, I'm going to solder him. Then I'm going to make sure that he's sitting down on the board by just reflowing and pressing, and now he's well down. And then we can solder the other lead. Okay, let's trim up. I honestly don't expect much drama in this step. This is a fairly traditional circuit. There's nothing at all special going on here. The linear voltage regulators are well known and pretty robust. Now for this step here, if you want to make sure that there's enough room for a screw to go in the corner here, so you have to bend these leads down pretty much right at the case. Space was tight, so we had to make sure that there was we could fit it all on. So now you see what's going to happen here is that's going to stand up a little bit, but that's fine. That's fine. We're going to there's no thermal efficiency, there's no thermal advantage to having it on the board. In fact, there's an advantage to having it a little bit away. So I'm just going to tape it down, and we're going to solder one of the leads. You can see, just aligned it so it's in the box, and then we will take off the other leads, all three of them. Makes it easier to solder afterwards if we don't have the long leads sticking out. Now R14, which goes in this space here, I'll just bend it over. Careful not to fill up any of the other holes there. They're annoying to get free again afterwards. So with the LED, there are two leads. One is shorter than the other, and there's a flat barely visible on one of the sides of it. The shorter one goes in the marking with the flat on it, which should line up with the flat on the case. Now you can put this guy quite close to the board. It's only an indicator, this one. Okay, last component for this part of the build, the barrel jack. Again, I'm going to tape it down while I solder the first lead. So you flood the pad. That keeps it in place. Then I'm going to reflow it just to make sure it really is tight against the board while holding it down. That's fine. And flood the other contacts. They're mainly there for physical stability. So I'm not going to bother putting this header on for the moment. If you do, you would put it there. But I'm going to be powering via the barrel jack, and I don't need any of the auxiliary power from this connector. So let's give it a test. Now, for first powering up of things like this, it's always good to have a bench power supply. So I've got my bench power supply here on at 9 volts and limited to 300 milliamps. Okay, let's test the voltage. Here's my power. I'll put the power in. The LED comes on. Nothing gets hot. That's very good. So now we can test the voltage. So you can also see it. 5.01. Okay, that's cool. Good. That's that step finished.